When I first started this YouTube channel, it took me a really long time to get this shot that you're looking at right now dialed in and as consistent as I wanted it across all my videos. Now I have it down to an exact science, so today I'm doing a tutorial on how I light my talking head parts. What's up guys, thank you for joining me. I'm your host Sam, and today I'm going over how I light my talking head parts and how you could apply the same lighting practices to your videos at home. Altogether, I'm using a key light, a hair light, some practical lighting, and then a fill light behind me for a grand total of 4 lights in this shot. Throughout this video, I am going to be talking about the prices of everything as I go along, but I want to give you all the prices at once so you know exactly what the total would be if you wanted to recreate this exact lighting setup. So it was $3 for the practical light up here, $40 for the RGB panel that I'm using as my fill light directly behind me, $150 for the LED panel that I'm using for my hair light. It's a much larger LED panel. $130 for the softbox that's on my key light. The key light itself was $300, and then all my light stands and accessories and everything was $160 for a grand total of $782. I want to talk about the purpose of all of the lights and what they do to enhance the shot individually, starting out with the least important light in the shot, which is this practical light up here on the shelf. And all it is a little plastic lamp that I bought at Five Below for like $3. It's battery operated. You can't change the color, you can't change the brightness. It just takes 3 AAA batteries, and it's a little plastic orb with some string lights inside of it and a fake wooden base, and that's it. A couple things I like about it is, first of all, obviously it's wireless, so I don't have to run a wire down the wall and make it look cluttered behind me. Also, because it was so cheap, if it falls and breaks, I don't really care. I can just go replace it. And also, because it's battery operated and it takes AAA batteries, it lasts forever. And obviously, you can use any light as a practical light. You could use a lamp, you could use a window, you could use an RGB LED panel that you bought on Amazon. You can literally use anything, as long as you're setting the shot up right and it's not taking too much of the focus away from your subject. So there's 2 main reasons that I have that practical light behind me. The first one, and the big one, is depth. It adds depth to the shot, maybe gives a little bit of color contrast because it's so warm, but it just makes the background a little bit more dynamic and a little less flat. The second reason I have that practical light in this shot, and a very common use for practical lighting, is it's hiding a different light. So my hair light is very warm and on that side of me, and so is that practical light. So it tricks you into thinking, hey, maybe that glow on the side of his head is coming from that practical light, when in actuality it's coming from an entirely different light that's out of frame. And obviously this isn't necessary or a hard and fast rule, but once you learn that trick, you'll probably be using it a lot more often and notice it a lot more in movies. Like every single time an actor is sitting next to a lamp, there's usually pretty obviously an LED panel next to them casting the same light on them. The second light on the list is my hair light. It's off to my left, it's about 8 feet in the air on a lighting stand, and it's the Pixel K80 RGB LED panel. I actually did a review of it, which you can find up here somewhere. A great way to show you what the hair light was doing in this shot is to turn it off. So now it's off and you can see that there's a very dark shadow on the side of my head. You can't really tell where it ends, it just rolls off to complete blackness. There's less of a hard outline on my shoulders, and I just don't have as much pop off the background as I did with the hair light. This shot isn't wrong, it's just a lot more dramatic. The second thing the hair light is doing that's super important is obviously it's very warm, so it's adding some warmth to my skin. The fill light behind me is very cool, so it's adding depth and color contrast between me and the background. Our third light on the list is the fill light behind me. It's a WeLight RGB light, which I bought on Amazon for $40 over a year ago, and it's still going strong. It doesn't take batteries, it has an integrated battery, and obviously it's RGB. Now that the fill light is gone, you'll notice that the background is much darker. It's a little bit more dull and boring in my opinion. There's just not as much going on back there. I'm also losing the halo effect that I had from the light. Also, because the light is directly behind me and it's right up against the wall, the light drops off very quickly on the wall, so I get kind of this dark ring around myself and then this halo over my shoulders, and it's just being used as sort of like a framing device. And also, like we were talking about with the hair light, it's adding color contrast between me and the background. Because I'm a little bit more orange, I made the fill light a little bit more cool, so I pop off the background a little bit more. Last but not least on the list, we have my main light, my key light. It is the Aputure Omron 200D with the Light Dome Mini 2 softbox on it. It's up at a 45 45-degree angle and it's set to 8% brightness. The Omron 200D is daylight balanced, and what that means is that it's just one color. You can't change the color temperature, you can't switch over to RGB, you get 5600 Kelvin and that's it. And where a daylight balanced light lacks in versatility, it makes up for it in consistency. I know that the light is going to be perfect every single time, and if I really needed to change the color on it, I could use something like a reflector or gels. I've already done a full review of the 200D, and I don't want to get too far into the specs with it, but I will say that if you're on a budget and you're setting up, like, say, a small YouTube studio, you can't go wrong with the 200D. It is absolutely awesome. So the whole reason my key light is up and at a 45-degree angle and casting all these shadows on my face is because I'm using something called Rembrandt lighting. If you've ever heard of the painter Rembrandt, he used this lighting technique in a lot of his paintings. Obviously, there's other ways that you could light your shot. You could use something called split lighting, which looks a little bit more like this. And I've only moved the light a couple of feet and it changes the look immensely. It's a lot more dramatic. There's a very hard shadow on the side of my face, and it's a little bit too dramatic for YouTube in my opinion. You might use this in a cinematic setting if you were filming, like, say, an interrogation or something of that nature, but for a talking head part on YouTube, I think it's just a little bit too much. So now that we've seen how dramatically it can change your image to move the light in one direction or another, I also wanted to show you how much it can change the image to remove the softbox like this. And you can see how big of a difference it is without the softbox. The light is much harsher, the shadows on my face are much harder, they don't roll off nicely like they did with the softbox, and also because we don't have the honeycomb grid on there, the light is spilling everywhere in the room, including behind me. The softbox also cuts down on the brightness substantially. I had to turn it down to 3% to get it to look about the same brightness as it was with the softbox at 8%. This has been the only angle that you guys have seen this lighting setup from, so let's take a look at it from a different angle. So here is my living room slash studio. I just call it studio because it sounds a little nicer for YouTube, but we have my key light up here. I do wish I could make that a little bit higher, but that ceiling fan is in the way, and it's just on a boom arm connected to a newer light stand with some ballast, and that's it for my key light. Next up, we have my tripod, which is always in the exact same spot because I put tape on the floor so I know exactly where it goes. That'll help with consistency if you're finding that your videos are looking a little bit different every single time. Also, I have this little Lume Cube stand right here. I just use that for the microphone so I can get the mic a little bit closer to my face as opposed to putting it up on top of the camera. You'll also notice that there's a big old moving blanket clamped to that mirror up there. That's just because mirrors are a really hard surface, so they increase the reverb and make the reverb sound really tinny. If you have any hard surfaces in your studio space, make sure that you're putting something softer over it before you're recording so that your reverb doesn't sound horrible. Next up, we have my hair light. That is on a Flashpoint lighting stand, and that only cost me about $50 on Amazon, and it is absolutely awesome. It's air cushioned, it gets really tall, like way taller than this room actually is. Got some barn doors on the K80, and it's a good little light. I don't hate it, I don't love it, it's just a decent little light that didn't cost all that much. We also have my background over here. You've probably never seen it from this angle, and it's just a shelf, some pictures, some stuff up on top of the shelf, and we have my table, which is kind of like a catch-all whenever I'm recording. Try to hide everything behind my back, like my notebook and my phone, so that I can look things up and write them down if I'm talking about them. And also, this isn't imperative, but you definitely want to have some sort of cat around so that they can... What? What's your issue? Why are you always so angry at me? But anyway, that's been my tutorial on how I light my talking head parts for YouTube and how you could do the same if you wanted to. If you have any requests for tutorials, please let me know down in the comments and I'll do my best to accommodate you. Also, I finally hit 1,000 subscribers, so thank you so much. From the bottom of my heart, it means the world to me and it keeps me going and keeps me wanting to make more content for this channel. So from me to you, thank you. If you got something out of this, consider going down and hitting the like and the sub button. It means the world to content creators like me. Thank you for joining me on another episode, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.